again. So this is just to show you a couple extra things to build off of what we started here if you're interested. So first I want to show you just how to make a little gradient with one color, where you just build up one color. I recommend starting with just one color. If you want to pre-mix it, make sure you mix a lot first in your tray. However, I'm just going to start by doing it with like green. So I'm going to put water in my green pan over here, stir it up a little bit. Make sure it's pretty wet because you're going to want to make it flow into itself so we can go from light to dark. If you remember what a value is, right, from light to dark, we're basically going to make a value scale with watercolor. So start by wetting your paper with a nice strip. This actually is a good, if you have a bigger brush, it's easier, I think. However, we can do it with this little one, no problem. So I'm just going to wet this little strip first. Then I'm going to take a bit of pigment here and test it. So it's kind of dark already. So I'm just going to go right in the middle. And I'm going to move it to the right, because the right side is going to be darker. To the left, it's going to be lighter. So what you can actually do to make it lighter while it's still wet, wet your brush, tap it on the towel, and you can kind of fade it out by just smoothing out the side. So you can already see there's the lightest values here. This is a good way to help blend out any creases if you ever run into that with your paint. Now to make it darker, I'm just going to go back into my little pad over here, pan, and add some more pigment. So you can see it's really dark now. And then to blend it out, I'm just going to take the brush, kind of smooth it in by going back and forth. And I'm not pressing hard, I'm just lightly brushing the paint. And now I want it super dark, so I'm just going to put some more of the paint on it and build it up over here. So you can see I made like a nice value scale with the darkest dark on the right, and then it fades into a light. Let's kind of smooth this out. Okay, so you might have seen this called like an ombre or a gradient. This is just with one color. So going back to this little image, it's dry now, and say I want it to add more details, make it a bit darker. I'm going to go back and let's do maybe some of this red. And just to kind of add some details, your paint is wet but the paper's dry, so you can go and just kind of add these little touches to your object just to give it a little bit more something, right? So it's not just as flat. You can also outline your drawing with a pen after the paint dries. And that is a really nice technique. Pen and watercolor work really well together. So you don't really like that too. Get your brush wet, tap it with a towel, and then you could even just basically erase it or let it blend into the flower if you don't want the line as hard, and you can kind of have it fade out. So I'm going to wet my brush again, tap it on the towel, and just kind of fade out what I just painted so it's not as heavily outlined. I want it to be a little bit smoother. And there you go. So I want to add just a little bit more to this middle of the yellow. I'm going to just put a tiny bit on the tip of the brush, maybe add a little bit of dots. Doot, 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 doot. There you go. And then you can actually even darken some parts. And there's very little water on the brush and the pan. So it's almost like as if you used regular paint. And you can see how dark it is, right? Pretty cool. All right, so that is just another little technique. So again, you can practice making your own value scale going from light to dark. It's a really good thing to practice. and practice smoothing out your paint so it doesn't have these buildups. But what's really cool about watercolor, and I'll kind of bring this closer to the camera, you can see how it dries and it leaves this really fascinating effect sometimes. So also try just to like let go and let the paint take control and see what kind of beauty you can create on your paper. Have fun!